Third, we thank you. Senator Josh Harkins is with us. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning,
Post 2023.
Look, post session, post everything. Look, Paul, I want to say you're awfully brave leaving your engineer extraordinaire and myself in this studio by ourselves.
I hope a football game or baseball game doesn't break out.
Well, look, we've grown up together. He and I played baseball at 9 and 10 years old, and Lance has not grown since he was 9 years old. He is the same size today as he was when he was 9.
I'm a beast. I asked him, I said, you look a little bit younger, not much, but a little bit younger than Josh does. And Josh looks a little weathered. That's because he's in politics and he's got kids, and you have neither. So
I've skated through all that.
Yeah, I think he's living the life of a single guy. So no wonder.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough being single guy.
Tough being single.
Right. Let me stick this one in here. Senator Johnson grilling Mayorkas just to open the flavor of the show here.
When you entered office, you reversed all those successful policies. And you opened up the border, and you've created this catastrophe, and it is a catastrophe. 6 million people, more than 6 million people. The 31 states have a population less than the number of people you've let in.
Great.
Flooding these sanctuary cities. So I've got a very simple question. Why did you do it?
Senator,
why did you reverse those policies? Why did you open up the border? Why did you create this catastrophe?
Senator, I respectfully disagree with the premise of your question. We did not open up the border. Senator, we enforce the law. We are facing...
Do you deny you reversed the Trump policies that had secured the border?
No, Senator.
You deny that?
God. No, Senator. Jeez. That is not what I said. We enforce the law.
You reversed the Trump policies that had secured the border.
That's enough. It's almost like Mayorkas makes Michael Cohen look like George Washington. He's that bad.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's infuriating to listen to some of the stuff that you hear coming out of D.C. and to sit there in front of Congress and blatantly have to look, these guys deserve hazard pay, having to defend what the president is doing, and they're complicit in it. But it's absolutely the truth. They have reversed course, and there is no border policy, just like there is no energy policy. There's a litany of things that they have done, in my mind and a lot of others' estimation, that has caused us to be in the position that we're in today with rampant inflation and just out of control overflow from the border, bringing drugs and seedy people that we don't want in our country. So it's
Josh,
concerning.
I wish people could grasp this, because I think it's true. You are right. They have spent the entire time in office doing one thing: building the Democrat Party. That's it. Every move they've made is for the benefit not of the people, but building the power of the party.
Oh, it's blatant. It's in front of everybody to see what they're doing, what they're trying to do, trying to stack the electorate in their favor. And I hope and pray that the citizens of this country realize it and make a change in November.
All right, I got to ask you, I want to get over to, we got plenty of time here to talk about the 2024 and your insight and analysis of that. This situation that's happening in New Albany, the situation that's happening in Tunica, and I got to believe that there are some other places that we'll find out about a little bit later on. And I know I'm catching you off guard, and this may not be your expertise, but your thoughts on this as far as them opening up a care facility at a hotel, bringing in as many as 2,000 minors, and it would be considered an influx care facility. Would you think that the state has any bearings of directions on this at all?
I haven't heard about this until you brought it up recently on your show, and
nobody has.
It's concerning. If our federal delegation is in talks with someone local or someone from out of state to use the facility up there in Tunica, my understanding is it is vacant. I'm sure whoever owns it would love to have a check from the government to cover the cost and to make some money on it. But what they're doing is if it's 2,000 minors, I'm trying to think of all of the the other issues and concerns that you have, having 2,000 miners sitting in the Delta with nothing to do, nowhere to go. I don't know what they plan on doing with them, how long they're going to keep them there. It's concerning on a number of levels, but whether it's there or somewhere else, that's where we need strong leadership in Washington to enforce a border policy that prevents stuff like this from happening. Because this is not something that is good for Tunica, good for New Albany, or good for anywhere in Mississippi.
I was in contact with most of them. The only one that we did not hear from, and would be the one that I would suspect would be the one that we should hear from, is Benny Thompson. But nobody that I know of knew about this, certainly not Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith nor Roger Wicker, as far as I know. And as far as a congressional delegation, I don't think so. It caught everybody off guard. Mr. Burnett, state representative from District 9, Cedric Burnett, said he was against this. He said he was approached to support the project, but he declined.
Well,
did you hear? You didn't hear anything in the state legislative session?
No, I did not.
He said, I think the location should be used to complement the gaming industry. Tunica is a tourism town. We depend on gaming. He says he believes the 22 acres could best be developed for tourism, and says if the project goes through, Tunica County will lose out. He said, it seems to me that the only two people that would benefit from it would be the person who's selling the land and the person that's actually got a large contract with the federal government to house the immigrants. Mr. Burnett, you're right.
He is absolutely right.
And according to Cedric, if the deal goes through, the firm operating that facility could receive as much as $150 per child from the federal government. $150 what? Total? Per day? Per month?
Oh, wow.
Didn't say. If it's a day, I think no, I would think it's per day, but $150 per day if you're going to totally house them with medical services, that's $300,000 per day.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, a week, I think.
It's $109 million a year.
Yeah.
$109 million. We figured that $109 million a year.
Paid for by the taxpayers of this great country.
Chump change.
Yep.
Tunica County Sheriff's Office released a statement Wednesday night stating that the county can not appropriately accommodate the immigrants initiative. I talked to our friend Thomas Tuggle, who said that the sheriffs in the area were concerned about this. And this was a couple of 3 days ago, and those sheriffs, the Democrat sheriffs, other than Thomas Tuggle, he said, we do not have the adequate resources to support or accommodate the immigrants initiative when it concerns public safety, public health care, along with child protective services. Tunica County does not have a local hospital in the event of an emergency. We have to transport our patients to other area hospitals, DeSoto County, Tate County, Clarksdale, Memphis. We reached out to the law firm representing the current owners of the property for a comment, but nobody has heard back from them, says the TV station. So,
I mean, what are you supposed to do? How long do they intend for these miners to be there? Are you going to have to open the schools up to educate them all? How does that work? And I mean, there's so many questions that you have, not to mention just the safety factor of having that many miners in a single location. I applaud Representative Burnett for having the foresight to make that statement. And I mean, he's absolutely right.
In a region of the state that is just thirsty for jobs, and needs health care improvements and everything else, this is just possibly the worst type of story that could happen. And if it is happening with the acquiescence or without the involvement of our congressional delegation, specifically District 2, where Benny Thompson is in charge, then he has let those people down. This is an election year, so not that he's worried about that, but he should be.
He should. Everybody should be worried about it, not just Congressman Thompson, but our entire delegation, our citizens, because this is going to have an impact just outside, not just in that area, but outside of that area in the region. And it's just I don't think that's very well thought out, and I think it's problematic.
All right, let's just say this. 5 years from now, a large percentage of those folks, or even a small percentage, stay in the Mississippi Delta area, etc. If Joe Biden wins again, we understand that just about every immigrant in this country is going to be eligible for Medicaid. Would that be a bearing on the legislature next year of Medicaid expansion? Would that have any bearings at all? And was that some of the discussions this year where the governor's office and some other people were worried that that could happen sooner than later as far as allowing illegal immigrants to be part of that expansion program? We'll pose that questions to Senator Josh Harkins when we return in just a minute. Harkins, by the way, just a little lagniappe on this last with Mayorkas, talking about the president didn't do anything. Do you realize, and I just saw this, and I didn't realize it was this many, in the first hour of his presidency, when he was sworn in, the first day, he signed 17
executive orders. Yep.
I didn't realize it was that much. 17 executive orders.
I remember they had them teed up and ready, and I can imagine if the roles are reversed this November, come January, there'll be probably 3 to 4 times as many executive orders.
I hope so.
Reversing a lot of the ones that the current administration has put in place.
Required the mask on federal property. He signed that. Executive Order 2 was rejoin the World Health Organization, set up COVID office that reports directly to Biden, extend foreclosure, eviction moratoriums, free student debt collection, rejoin the Paris Accord. It goes on and on and on. And one of the other ones was revoke the permit for the Keystone Pipeline, which got gas prices going up. Unwind Trump's changes to the census. Abolish the Muslim ban. I could go over and over and over. He actually began his destruction of America on that first day.
Day one.
Medicaid. Was this ever part of the discussion about what would happen as far as the feds are concerned? And would that be placed upon the state of Mississippi as far as authorizing illegals to be a part of the Medicaid program?
I don't think this conversation that we've had in the first segment was ever contemplated or discussed and brought up. No one knew anything about that during the session. I've never heard it mentioned until, I guess, yesterday or day before in your show. So, no, it was not considered. And it's something you have to take into consideration because at the end of the day, the state's proportionate share of this it is what it is. And I think one of the things that we're going to experience next year in our budget is the FMAP changing, going down and going to be requiring a larger share of state funds to the tune of $200 million probably. And so all these things.
Explain that a little bit more.
So during the pandemic, the federal government bumped up the amount of the match that the federal government would participate in. So if ours is 77% now, or it's going, I think, back to 77, it may have gone up to 83 or 85%. So they increased their proportionate share of how much they were pitching in on Medicaid because of the executive orders where you couldn't kick anybody off during the pandemic, and so the rolls were over. I guess there were more people on the rolls than normal, and so it didn't take as much state share to run Medicaid. Medicaid had built up a cash balance. Well, they've been using that cash balance over the last couple of years, and obviously now the FMAP is going to go down, so our proportionate share of the Medicaid bill is going to go up. And so that's going to be a realization that we're going to have to budget next year, increased amount on Medicaid as it is today.
So would that formula also be there, Medicaid expansion, the same formula?
Yes, it will.
And what is our taxpayer out of our state treasury?
I think it's about 77%. I mean, it's we did about $900 million, I think, budgeting on Medicaid, but it's and depending on the roles, depending on the economy, more people working, it should be fewer people on the Medicaid rolls. They go down. And it's just the reality of what we've got to deal with. It's not we don't get to say, well, we're only going to fund it by so much. We have to put in what the match is. So it's some years we have to come back and put a deficit appropriation in to help shore it up. Some years we've had a surplus when the rolls have dwindled down and are lower.
State Senator Josh Harkins. Josh is from District 20, Rankin County, chair of the Senate Finance Committee, so he should know what's going on. Have you seen the numbers lately as far as last month and how we're trending?
We're trending up right now. I think the last report we got, we're almost 100 and I can't remember the exact number, maybe 180 million over estimate. About a little over 100 million of it is interest on all the cash that we're sitting on from the federal government that hasn't been spent yet through the CARES Act and through some of the ARPA payments. That obviously we sent out a lot of money to cities and counties that we matched. Some of those projects have not been let yet, so the cash is sitting in the bank, and we're earning a lot of interest on it right now. But that figure will dwindle down as the money is being spent. I think it has to be allocated by October 1st this year, and anything that is not spent gets swept into MDOT's maintenance program. It's kind of a catch-all where we can utilize the money, and there's obviously plenty of maintenance to go around. So that money will be spent before 2026, or it has to go back to the federal government. So making sure that we spend that is very key.
You're a finance guy. How do you feel about the decision the House and Senate and signed into law that was made a couple of years ago as far as the income tax reduction at that step, at that level? How are we absorbing this? Are you satisfied the way we're absorbing this?
I think we're right on track. I mean, I think what the concern that I had was that we tamped expectations after the pandemic with all the federal money that was pushed down into the state. On a normal year, you may get 11, 12 billion, 13 billion dollars. We got 33 billion on top of the normal allotment of money. And so that 33 billion, 12 to 13 billion of it went directly to the citizens in the form of PPP, EIDL, disaster assistance, unemployment compensation, paying people not to go to work. And so everybody was cash rich, so to speak, and you couldn't really go anywhere. So, people either bought cars, they fixed up their houses, they spent the money, and the money was just churning through the economy, and our revenues were up. Obviously, if people like to forget the year of COVID, but we went from being up in February about $220 million to being down $40 million the next month, and we had to cut budgets 5% across the board. We cut education a pretty good chunk, so we're climbing out of it. But the excess revenue that's there is not going to be sustained. It's starting to the gap is starting to close, and so I think we, trying to tamp expectations of not being overly optimistic and thinking that's going to be the new normal going forward, I think was a concern. But inflation brings in more money when things cost more. Sales tax dollars are coming in at a little higher clip. So there are a lot of factors that you have to consider when taking all of this tax policy into consideration. But I think we're pretty happy with where we are. We obviously cut the 4% bracket the first year, which was $185 million. The next year we went from 5 to 4.7%. This year we'll go down to 4.4. Following year we'll go from 4.4 to 4% and have a flat 4% rate, which I think will be about the fifth lowest in the country as of today. But we'll see how our economy.
We're fourth law. What did you say?
I think the fifth lowest tax rate.
Because I'd heard the ninth. So you're saying we will be, or we are now?
We were on schedule to be once it goes into effect to 4%. In 2 years, it would be considered about the fifth lowest rate in the country. But other states may be moving a little closer to dropping, so it ebbs and flows every year.
Well, that said, and you can have this discussion about and argue about how important is this on the scale of the most important to major businesses like Amazon and all of the other things that we're talking about, the data center. The battery operations up in Marshall County, but
SDI,
they're coming in.
Columbus,
SDI, they're coming in. So I don't know if the income tax thing is as big a problem with them or not. I'm not sure.
Obviously, it's not. They're here, and they're investing billions and billions of dollars. And I think you see the growth up in North Mississippi. People are fleeing south from Memphis. But I think it's good policy to really take a deep dive and look at your tax policy and where are we getting it right? Where can we improve?
Absolutely.
And it's never, the goalposts are always moving. You should always be considering these things and what is our tax policy and how can we attract more business to give opportunity for jobs, better paying jobs to our citizens. Upward mobility is what we like to look at.
And if you went in there and look at all of the movement, how fast things are spinning, the thing that's spinning the fastest is probably getting a step on to be even better at workforce development.
Absolutely,
that's a major cog in there.
Workforce development, career coaches. Obviously we've opened up the Office of Workforce Development. We've invested millions of dollars, additional millions of dollars this year in career coaches. So you have career coaches at all these schools. I've heard from my superintendent extolling the virtues of how important and impactful the career coaches have been in the high schools and helping these kids kind of get a plan in action of what to do when they get out of school.
What's the fact when you just had graduation and about the same week you have graduation, you hear the tuitions at most of the schools are going up again.
Yeah.
You got to start looking at things like that, and it does matter. We'll have final segment with State Senator Josh Harkins coming up right after Tom Jones. Well, if you took a look at the 2024, just in the limited time we have, Josh, the greatest successes and maybe some of the things that failed that you would like to see take up next year.
Well, the one thing I'll say about this past session is it's way too long. 125 days is it's a grind, but we did have a lot of successes, and some of them, it's we spoke earlier. It's sad that you've got to file certain bills, but there's a couple bills I'm proud to have sponsored and seen passed and signed by the governor. The SAFER Act is one of them. Also, we did a bill, Right to Try. Working the SAFER Act, I think was really needed, and it's sad at this day and age that we had to file something like that to protect girls and safe spaces. And I had some really good help from my colleague, Representative Celeste Hurst, over in the House, and a lot of good people helped work on that. Ms. Leslie Davis and several other folks were instrumental in helping us get this bill passed and to the governor's desk.
You understand exactly what was happening in Joey's mind?
No, it's look, my previous statement about the session being way too long, it is very long, and by the end of it, everybody's worn out and frazzled, and I think if we all look in the mirror at the end of the session, there are probably things that we wish we would do better, and including myself. So it got signed, and I'm glad it's been approved by the governor and in law now. But that bill was important. I've done a bill several times, Right to Try. If you're diagnosed with a terminal illness, you could take. It would allow you to take drugs that have not been approved by the FDA but have passed certain safety trials, phase
in the
1
experimental
drugs. Yeah, and we came back and kind of added on to it. We added disabilities that would lead to death, and we done that. We added stem cells and also medical equipment that would help do stuff like that. But this year we added another one that would help with people with rare diseases. Our FDA is built to do for drugs to be approved, they have to be tested on lots of patients that suffer from the same disease. Well, there are a lot of rare diseases that you don't have that many people suffering from. Yep. And so coming up with individualized gene therapies based on your DNA and your genetic makeup has become really effective, and they're doing it in Europe, and there are Mississippians that have traveled over to Europe that have had to, put their...
Any other state doing that?
We are the third state that has passed this bill, Arizona
Let me ask you,
and Nevada.
any complications within the confines of rules and regulations from the medical agency or the hospitals or the doctors?
I think it provides immunity for all of them. You're basically doing this of your own volition, and you accept the risks. Typically this is dealing with diseases or issues that are not really good, and they're looking for other opportunities other than what's available. And so this gives them the opportunity.
What's he going to do? Kill you? Yeah, you know. But, so I understand that. That has been a conversation we've had for a long time, and it makes sense to go that way.
And it's a great bill, and it gives the individual the power to try to help kind of deal with their issues, and gives them the flexibility. They don't have to go to Europe to do it. I know of 2 or 3 families that have had to actually move over to Europe and be treated and successfully. So
limited time here. Are we going to have any powwows during the summertime to get on the same page so that we can get into the session of 2025 and have this initiative taken care of?
I'm sure we will. I think that's when a lot of policy should be talked about and vetted during the summer. That's coming up with major issues or major policy changes in the middle of the session is not the best way, I think, to do things. I think when you have hearings, you vet it, you get parties from all sides, perspective. I mean, look, I tell people all the time, we have 30-something standing committees, and we're supposed to be an expert on all of them. I'm not, and it helps to have time to have hearings to bring other people in to get perspective. Somebody may understand the application, the practical application of the laws that we're passing way better than we do. Yeah. And they provide that insight, and so hopefully we'll have talks on a host of issues over the summer and really dig in. And I think the initiative is one of those, Paul. It's funny. You're seeing movements across the country of people trying to get rid of their initiative process. They don't want it, and it's interesting to see how different states have come down on this issue, and what you're seeing movements in conservative circles and other places that people don't want it because they've seen how out of control it's gotten in some states. And
well, with the big money factor and social media and the ability now more than ever before, Josh, to mold people's minds regardless of where it is, if you've got enough money and power. I think the initiative process is still good, but it's got to be hard to do.
Yes, it should be. It should be a tall hurdle to cross, but we'll have more discussions on it, and along with several other issues.
Good deal. Love to have you back this summer.
Please do, Paul. Good to see you, man.
Very much.